Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's all right, safe and sound. Let me check if everything is all right. Okay, that's good. Yeah, the ATS 20 is that kind of homemade radio with the SI 4732 chip. First reports are that it's not that great. It's okay, but nothing more. I should have had one, but I actually got a refund because I never received it. And for those that wonder, I am to get a St. Gian ATS 909X2 this coming Friday, according to tracking. So if you want to have my impressions, and I want to thank Kevin in New Jersey for providing this so that we all know what it's like. And I'll be, of course, testing it against the Texan PL 990X and against its siblings, the 909X and 909 original. Going to be interesting. I don't know of any radios that had three different versions of the same radio. I think it's the first time. I mean, there were some revisions over time of receivers, but it's the first time that I see a company taking an original ATS 909, bringing to market an ATS 909X, and now an 909X2. I mean, obviously they're saving money by using roughly the same casing, but I don't think I've ever seen a company have different versions or different, to this extent, actually, revisions that are enough that the circuitry and everything is kind of changed over time. It's kind of interesting. So I should be getting that on Friday. Let's hope. Welcome aboard, everybody. And you are actually watching the. Let me just check. There's something weird. My volume level is all right, guys. So, hello, everybody. Vodka and cranberry, the usual drink of the Shortwave show. Okay, so hey everybody, welcome aboard. This is the live Shortwave show. We are live, of course, every. For some reason, my headphones are weak compared to what I'm used to, and I wonder why. So weird. How about I do this and maybe lower this a little bit, but still kind of weird. So, anyways, if something's wrong, let me know, guys. So we are live twice a week, and we talk about radio, shortwave radio, amateur radio, frequency spectrum, solar activity. We're the weird people, that what, in times of maybe a catastrophe, maybe you want to be friends with us, because that's what shortwave radio and radio is all about. It's more than 100 years old, but how many technologies that that spent 100 years and are still here? Not that much, actually. There have been a lot of changes over time. Look at it. All the technology around us and how computers evolve so fast. And today YouTube. I mean, how many of you in the 80s I was in 1982 and I had a Commodore VIC-20 back then. How many of you had thought that there would be a worldwide network with a guy from Canada doing a live show on, with a very simple setup from home that people from around the world can actually tune to? I don't think we would be many of us saying, "Oh yeah, that's the future." I would have told you if you told me, "Hey, you're going to be live on YouTube, a network in 2020, 2021, talking about shortwave radio," and it's like, "Get out of here." At the same time, I don't think in 1982 I saw that shortwave would be a declining technology in some way. Let's face it, 40 years later, or almost, there's less stations and less countries on the that are on shortwave. But that was not, I still say it all the time when people say, "Oh, the internet killed shortwave." Yeah, the internet apparently killed a lot of things. And when I look at it, it's like, no, the internet didn't kill anything. The internet was there, and even before, there was a decline of certain technologies, and the internet was not even there. It's not that. It's a very different thing. And when somebody tells me, "Yeah, yeah, all the stations are gone on the internet," nope. The majority of shortwave stations that have left. They're not on the internet and they're not streaming. Stop thinking it's that, because it's not that. I'm tired of hearing that, because no, the majority of shortwave stations, they just shut down and that's it. If the internet was that future, they would all be there. We would all be tonight. You know what we would be doing? We would be on a show talking about, oh, Radio Norway is on that place on the internet, and so on. None of them have decided to continue in any way, except a very few number. And that tells you one thing: the internet was not the future of international broadcasting. When somebody comes up to me and says, "Well, you got all the stations in the world," no, you got the local stations streaming on the internet. And because there's no borders, we can listen from anywhere else. None of them in a language I can understand. I'm sorry, but oh yeah, Norway's on the internet. Yeah, it is in Norwegian. I have no idea what they're saying. Sweden's on the internet. Oh yeah, I know. I don't understand Swedish. And although Radio Sweden did keep kind of a minimum on the internet, maybe I'm one of the things that always made me think about those that decided, okay, we're not on shortwave, let's try internet. Um, very simple explanation, very simple, um, um, you know, example. Radio Canada International. How many of you have listened to Radio Canada International on the internet? I don't think there's a lot of you, but there was a lot more of you on shortwave. I mean, in this time where RCI Action was trying to keep Radio Canada International alive, even on its actual form of being a internet only media. Personally, I will be very fair. The internet is not where you're being shown. You're going to show your country to the world at all. Have you ever gone to the internet to know what's happening in Sweden? I don't think so. But it was something we knew and we understood when Radio Sweden was on the air talking about what's happening in their countries. We were, there were two parts in here. We were amazed. There's a signal from Sweden coming to my place. And you're listening, and you not only have that amazement of a signal coming from a foreign country, but you had also the amazement of I'm listening to what's happening in their country. And I learned a lot about the countries around the world thanks to shortwave, what's happening in different countries. Unfortunately, what is happening in different countries right now? Does anybody know? Apart when there's like a mass murder, a typhoon, or an earthquake, we have no idea. And that was not what shortwave was, even in times of nothing major is happening. I know that there was this legislation, there was this new law, there was this, there was something about life in a country, which was amazing. It was traveling with radio waves. And you didn't even know, you would close your eyes and you would just think, I'm almost there. I can almost see what they're actually explaining. And there's none of that on the internet. I am not searching for countries on the internet to know what's happening somewhere. Not that I don't want to. I would like to know what's happening in countries we never hear about. That's where international broadcasting on shortwave, a lot of people misunderstood what it was all about. It was about learning. And you know what? The more you learn about other countries, I think the better it is for everybody because we understand each other better. I often try to, I hope at least that as shortwave listeners, our point of views of world events with the point of views of everybody. Because I'm sorry, but our own media is a little propaganda machine. Radio Canada or the CBC is nice, but it's very Canadian. The networks in the US, ABC, CBS, so on, it's very US centered. It's normal. I mean, they are meant to give us news about our own country. But what about what people think of us around the world? There are examples in the last few years, without naming anything, where, you know what? Our own citizens, if they would be more educated about what the rest of the world is thinking about us and and how media around the world is talking about everything that's happening in North America. I'll tell you, if the education was there that we suddenly listen to other countries talking about an event, maybe we'd learn that we got to sit down and rethink a lot of who we are or we think we are, because that was shortwave. Shortwave made me understand why a certain country, and there's propaganda, and all right, I mean, Radio Moscow was propaganda, Voice of America's propaganda. Radio Canada was Canadian propaganda up to a certain point. I mean, each station had, I mean, Radio Moscow had some programs that, we got to be fair, were very, very nice. When I get called a communist on some comments, it's like, yeah, you're stuck 50 years ago. Maybe you should wake up. I mean, we had the Cold War, we had so many things happening, but I'm sorry, Radio Moscow was one of my favorites. It was an interesting listen. It was not just all propaganda, it was also interesting in some aspects. And maybe it rose, it gave us a little moment where we might have just, like I say all the time, I listen to East Bloc countries a lot, and I'm not a communist today. I can tell you that. I don't think that's how it works. I don't think that's the way it is. They might have wanted that to happen, but I don't think that was what happened. I think it just took people like us in North America and the Western Hemisphere and it made us understand, okay, there's two point of views, very opposite of, the scale is huge. They're each on like their side, and there's like not a lot of in the middle. But we're the guys, and we listened. And you know what we realized? That I think personally, I would say that shortwave made me understand that in frightening times where the Cold War was at its edge, it was not that frightening. It was, yeah, it's kind of heavy, it's kind of complicated, and but listening to shortwave, I don't know, people are talking, and viewpoints are there, and things are happening, and it made it maybe I was innocent. I wasn't, I was a teenager, but I think about it today at 50 years of age, and you know what? No, I think it made me feel that there was hope, and that even though viewpoints are there and there's a lot of things happening, it wasn't that bad. There was still hope that everybody tried to understand each other. And you know what? A lot of that happened through shortwave. A lot of that happened through shortwave. I have the impression today, without shortwave, that we have more difficulty understanding each other around the world. It was always difficult. I mean, I think of the news outlets when I was young, and me and my brother were very open. I would say very aware of the world around us. I still remember. I still remember sitting down in front of the TV, and there's a breaking news report as I'm watching a movie with my brother, and it's the United States that sent missiles on Gaddafi in Libya. And I still remember that day, me and my brother looking at each other. It's like, wow, this is a major event. This is something. So, it tells you that we were open and we were aware of the world around us a lot. Me and my brother were like, really, really out there, knowing that, what's happening around the world is important, and what's happening in different countries is super important, because we have a tendency to look at ourselves and be in our little world, which is complicated for a lot of people. I mean, I have the chance of doing so much more with what I love, including this, and be, I'd be paid because monetization exists, and I found a way to earn a living with what I love, and that's not given to a lot of people, honestly. How many people have a dream or had a dream and never came true? And you know why? Because it's darn difficult when you have to pay the bills to be able to, you know, do what you like, do what you love. So, you look at that and you're thinking, you know what? All of these stations from shortwave that are gone, somebody never understood one thing. Shortwave was some way of talking to each other. Shortwave was a media that I understand why Switzerland, or how Switzerland thinks about this event. I always enjoyed over time knowing what, you know, the countries around the world thought about us. It's important. It's important. And, as you guys, a lot of Americans are watching this. I think, and I hope that you guys are watching what the world is thinking, because it's important. Like, it's important to know what, I always found it kind of important to know what do people think of Canada? What is Canada to the world exactly? Apart from our or differences. And God knows in Canada there's differences. I'm part of the province that has the differences. um, Somehow it's not just that. We got to stop always looking at ourselves, and we got to look at what others think of us. Because if you don't, you know what? You don't know if you're going in the right direction. Somebody's point of view somewhere might actually have you change your direction. Because if you can't change your direction due to comments of people around you, well, I don't think that, I think you're lost. How many times did, our lives change because of somebody's comment? I'm pretty sure everybody in the chat room had one hurtful comment from somebody that made you realize a little something about yourself, and you tried to fix it. You know, it's interesting. It's interesting because unfortunately, too much was lost with shortwave broadcast going away. And I'm sad about that because I think it's so much misunderstanding of, you know what, that money you spent in having your country tell me who you are was money well spent. But somehow somebody somewhere didn't understand that. And there's a lot of changes. But I'm pretty sure nobody knows what's happening in different countries because of the internet, outside of your news outlet that's going to tell you, well, a bomb exploded somewhere. Unfortunately, that's the only news we get. Oh, there's a bomb there. Oh, there was a typhoon there. That big storm there. There was an earthquake there. Yeah. Oh, wow. I haven't heard that country in ages, except when there's a catastrophe. Shortwave gave me news of what's happening there in good times when people were living and just being who they are. I know I'm ranting tonight, but you know what? I was about to do the show and had a little bit of bad news, so I was kind of in a mood of just wanting to, talk about whatever I want to talk about. And of course, I love you all for sure. So my name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and we are northeast part of North America. It's Thursday for pretty much a lot of people watching, except us in North America, stuck in the past. Yeah, that should say it. We're stuck in the past. So my so my name is Joel, and we are here twice a week. Wednesday, 0 hours UTC. Thursday for a lot of people, 20 hours or 8 p.m. Eastern. We are here on Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 20 hours UTC, and we're talking about radio. Yeah, that ancient art of invisible waves that still exists today. And we try to just entertain and have fun talking about radio. And there's a chat room with wonderful people that are here. And they're great people, actually. You can ask questions. You can be just friendly. You know what? I think this is the friendliest group I think we can find. And that's so cool. And that is an example of how everybody should be around the world. When all of this is over, we have a Facebook group. And on that Facebook group, we have all sorts of posts, radio, videos, pictures of shacks, of radios, of what you have, what you're listening to. Official SWL channel is a Facebook group. Same name as the channel here. So I hope you enjoy, everybody. And it's nice to be here. And after babbling for 25 minutes, I'm going to say hi to everybody. So, Randall Clance, nice to have you on board. Bobby Burgess, WA5107 SWL, Morgan City, Louisiana. Dennis, WA9326 SWL, nice to have you here in Southern Illinois. Paul, nice to have you on board. I'm just going to do a little something here. Okay. Dan Robinson, hey, nice to have you here, my friend. And hey, you have questions about the Texan H501. He's going to be happy to answer. And he says he's looking forward to some good discussion of the Malachite or Malachite SDR. So, hey, this is going to be a good night, I think, for discussions and talk about radio. Graham, nice to have you here. He's got CB ears on 27085. Cool. Paul in Southwest Michigan, nice to have you here. Matt, MDK2, nice to have you here from Denver, Colorado. Here we have snow tonight. We had snow today. We had actually, I would say, you know what? I took the snow out of the balcony in the back. We probably had at least 2 to 3 inches of snow easily. Rob, nice to have you on board from a hot and sunny Phoenix. Chem Magazine, nice 1976. Nice to have you here from West Michigan. Kevin, nice to have you on board from rainy New Jersey. And according to tracking, Kevin, the St. Gian should be here Friday. Thanks once again for being a great. I mean, you're amazing. The radios you actually sent me, really cool. So thanks, Kevin. And hey, everybody, say thank you, Kevin, for me testing out an ATS 909X2. Jerry DX, nice to have you on board. David, KJ4CMY, nice to have you here from Central Georgia. Joe Brown, nice to have you here from Southeast Michigan. 26 degrees Fahrenheit tonight. Dan Robinson, sunny but cool in Maryland. 63 KC. Yeah, the ATS 20 China thing is a lot of what I've seen yet is that it's lacking a lot, but it's kind of a cute little thing. I would have enjoyed having one, but it never arrived, so I got a refund, unfortunately. Frank Ireland, nice to have you here from Venice, Florida. Frenchie, nice to have you here. Where are you located, Frenchie? Exit ADXer, nice to have you here. Keegan, Northwest Arkansas. Joe Tyson, nice to have you here from North Carolina, KM4WRQ. Steve in Australia, nice to have you here in your Australian morning. James Johnson, good evening. Nice to have you here. Joe Gomez, nice to have you on board from San Diego, California. Aerial Imaging, nice to have you here. And Dan Robinson, waiting the 909X2, hoping it's firmware 073. Oh-ho. So I don't know what firmware version was the one that Kevin sent me, but I'll be sending it to have it upgraded to 073 for sure, if it's not there. Joe Gomez, getting as much background data in order to purchase a Russian Malachite. Well, you got to ask that guy, George, and it takes a few months before it gets there. It seems to be almost in production as he's getting the orders, basically. Kind of interesting. But they are intriguing devices, I got to say. I mean, wow, you know. Joe, nice to have you here from Newmarket, Virginia. SoCal, nice to have you here from San Diego. Hector Vasquez, nice to have you here from Los Angeles, California. VT Radio, nice to have you on board from Essex Junction, Vermont. How much snow did you get? We got 3 inches. I'd say about that, 3 inches. When I took the snow out of the balcony in the back, it was, I would say, about 3 inches, roughly 3 inches. So I think we had the same amount here. Kevin says about half an inch of snow in Northwest Arkansas Tuesday afternoon. Wow. And Andrews, nice to have you on board from Ontario. Ronald, nice to have you here. 909X2 is a very different radio. The whip antenna is much heavier and 6 inches longer. I love mine. So I'll be checking that out. I know that 073 is the magic number for that radio, so it's going to be interesting to test out for sure. And I'm going to be doing tests, you know, with valid radios, with like the original and the X and the X2, and also the fact that I can test it against the Texan PL990X, which is probably the biggest competition. The competition, the competition with 909X and 990X, which is difficult to pronounce because they're so similar, but the numbers in the X's are all shift around. But man, comparing these radios is pretty much, you know, the biggest competition to the Sangean 909X2 is really the 990X from Texan, basically, especially for the price range. Paul, dialing into a BBS on the VIC-20 was amazing at the time. Yeah, absolutely. 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 That's because Ann Andrews, instead of tuning around, you're staying, you're staying on those stations with Brother Stare. Well, it was not, Dan. You know why? Because shortwave was already in a big, big decline, and the internet did not change that. The decline was already there. And money is the big problem, not the internet. Um, I respect your opinion on that. And I know that, you know probably a lot about broadcasting with your background. But I do not agree that the internet is why stations went away. If it was, they would have gone on the internet to broadcast, which most of them did not. They just left because the listenership was not there. And the money spent for shortwave broadcasting is very, very, it's a lot of money to broadcast, with big gun transmitters. That is much more why they left than the internet itself, honestly, Dan. That's my impression is that. Yeah, but the BBC World Service is a different thing, Sokalf, because the BBC is a big gun broadcaster. It's kind of something that is on its own, and they broadcast on the internet because they decided, and they're one of the major ones that really kept it. And then Robinson says what phones and mobile delivery of the internet did was remove interest in listening any extended length of time to long form programming, such as used to on the shortwave. That's a very different thing. Absolutely. Well, you know what, David, KJ4CMY, RCI was on the internet until yesterday, or no, a couple of days ago. Now it's like it's gone. But they had kept some form of English French broadcasting. But the RCI was not what it was 30 years ago at the same time. You got to understand that. Look at Radio Australia. I get it that you want to save money, but when Radio Australia changed from its own thing, its own broadcasting, its own, form of shortwave broadcaster, and they decided, let's just put ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, on. You know what? How interesting is knowing what's happening, in everyday life and the traffic and whatever. It changes everything. It became, I'm learning from, what's happening in Australia to, yeah, okay, I'm listening to a local station in Australia talking about traffic or something. It's very different. Dan Robinson, BBC is a major exception. We still have today BBC shortwave style programming that is simultaneously available online. Yeah, it's one of the very big exceptions because the BBC, I think it has a lot to do with how dominant it is as a news outlet and how it's respected as a broadcaster. Voice of America is also streaming a lot of its stuff on the internet. The big gun broadcasters kind of pulled it off somehow. you know, but it's crazy. Joe Tyson, I think global politics and how people get news, internet changed what caused shortwave decline. Once again, I don't think it did, but it's my opinion. It's my opinion, but I don't think shortwave has anything to do with that. Shortwave, internet has nothing to do with that. You know what? We were already. When did shortwave started to decline? In the 80s, there was already a big decline. Stations were just leaving, leaving, leaving. 90s, stations leaving, leaving, leaving. The internet wasn't there. It was because the listener input might not have been there, and they decided that it wasn't worth it. And you know what? In the last 20 years, the internet was there. Decline maybe a little faster, but if the internet was a decline, they would have gone on the internet. They would have said, "Oh, the internet's that new thing, so let's go on the internet and do our broadcast." Most of them did not. I don't think the internet had anything to do with it personally. I think the internet happened and was there, but what happened mostly is that listeners weren't there anymore, and the internet didn't have that much to do with it. You know what? Noise and interference and more and more difficult conditions made it like I the hell with it. If I have to listen to some country and around the world with tons of static around it, I'm gonna just stop doing my hobby. And the decline was present way before the internet, but that's my opinion. And the important thing here is that we respect everybody's opinion. So, but Dan Robinson, I know with your background, you might have maybe I don't know an outlook. You obviously have a different outlook or a different way of thinking of maybe what's happening with the background you have, and of course, it's different from mine, which is not in the broadcasting field. It's as a hobbyist, which is a very different side of things. My point of view is as a hobbyist and a shortwave listener. And it's interesting to hear everybody's opinion on this. I think, but I don't think on the internet has that much to do with decline. There's a lot more going on. Cold War. If let's put it where the decline is really maybe more present. Cold War is gone. There's no reason for me to express myself around the world because now we're going into a new era of everybody should be okay, which never happened actually. So, Cal, the internet is good for one thing. I won't say as this is a family chat room. Oh God. RFA Radio Free America. Hey, buddy. Nice to have you here, Doug. Doug from Virginia. Can a shortwave receiver be modified to monitor cell phone and police frequencies? Not really. Shortwave receivers are far from the frequency ranges of these things, and that's where you get a scanner radio. And then again, cell phone is today is encrypted, and even though there were some demonstrations of how you can tap into today's GSM networks and stuff like that, honestly, no, not. It's a complicated thing. As for police frequencies, unless if they're not encrypted, get yourself a decent scanner, and it's going to work. But apart from that, there's nothing you can do. Dimitri, nice to have you on board, my friend. Hey, Rekre, nice to have you here from Turkey. Nice to have you on board, my friend. What else do we have? Aerial imaging in the U.S. were frogs in a pot of water slowly being brought to boil. Nobody here even notices that we're not being given news anymore. You know, we got to be fair about one thing. Um, One of the major aspects of everyday life of everybody is what? Surviving. And we got to be careful what we perceive, because I mean, if you're able to spend $300 on a shortwave radio in 2021, which is not a need, which is not something you have to, except for us, because I mean, we're gonna die if we don't have another shortwave radio. um, we're different. We're not in the same game. Look at how much I spent in shortwave receivers in the past since the beginning of the year. It's obvious I'm not in the same game as someone that's waking up in the morning and thinking, how am I going to feed my children? And how am I going to go through paying the rent? And that we got to be fair. Is that's a lot of people. We have our lives, but remember, we're in our little bubble here. A lot of people are just struggling day to day, and shortwave is certainly not in the mind of a lot of people, and I think that's a lot of it too. It's we gotta let's not forget that. Okay, I mean, we're lucky we can buy radios, and even there, I mean, on the channel here, I've got a wide variety of people that uh, for some, $20 for a receiver is a lot. Like for some, it's like, oh yeah, you bought that $13,000 receiver. Well, congratulations. But it shows you that, that's life. There's that. There's people here at the top. There's people here at the bottom. I'm certainly not at the top. I'm somewhere in the middle, probably. But I mean, you know, we got to just realize that also, honestly. And we got to, we got to think about all of that too. But that happened, and that was also the case in the 70s and 80s, where we had people, but I say it all the time. The hobby has become cheaper. I mean, a good shortwave radio in 1982 was more expensive for the salary that we had than it is in 2021. I mean, when you look at the text and receivers today, it's like, wow. Bob Lewin, nice to have you here. Vladimir Posner was the English-speaking presenter on Radio Moscow. He was easy to listen to. Well, they made it, they made it easy to listen to. Absolutely. Thomas Bibish, nice to have you here from Ohio. EC Fetters Walps, nice to have you. Nice to have you on board. Radio Berlin International from GDR was heavy on propaganda, but it was also an interesting station to listen to. At times in the 80s, he says he still has tons of stuff they mailed to me as a kid. Of course, there was also the curiosity of what was life in the Eastern Bloc countries. We were curious about that also. Aerial imaging, there is news in the world, major stuff. Nobody is aware. We're behind a firewall, just like China. We're not behind a firewall. Let's put it more open, okay? The major broadcasters are in a mode where they're giving us news in a certain way. We're not behind a firewall, because if you want to know what's happening in the country, you can Google it and you'll see what's happening in the country. Okay? China is, you Google it, you're not getting results. Let's be very careful about what is censorship. I don't think the media is censorship. I think it's just giving us and trying to find what's interesting for us. Okay? What's interesting for the mass population? Well, some kind of major disaster is more interesting than, yeah, there's this high school student that won a sponsorship to become a world leader someday in Slovakia. That's not going to make the news. It's important news because it's like, some kid somewhere one day might be a leader in importance, but no, that's not interesting. Oh, but 700 people died in a car crash. I don't know how many people there were in there, but what I mean by that is, 700 people died in a car crash. That's going to be in the news. I don't think it's censorship, and I don't think it's a great firewall. We got to be careful with that. Living in North America, we are directed to some news in some way by major networks. But if you go and search for whatever, you will have the information you need. You will have what you're looking for. There's no firewall. We got to be careful here. There's no firewall in North America. We are fortunate to Google something and find it. Like I said, in China, there's a great firewall. If they Google Tiananmen Square, they're not going to get results. If they Google I don't know in English how you pronounce it, the Uyghurs or whatever, that minority right now that's being pretty much extinct because of the Chinese government, there's no results. We do the same searches and we're going to get it right away. So, no, there's not a great firewall. We got to stop thinking that. What's happening is that the commercial media wanting to make money is just focusing on the trash that a lot of people are kind of hooked on. And that's a different thing. That's a different thing. And add to that certain media are pro certain side of government. It makes it worse. It makes it worse. Oh, God. I'm very far behind, by the way. I'm half an hour behind in the chat room. Okay, guys. So I'm going to try to catch up. Dimitri, we have right now the Second Cold World War, and information is on the Facebook and Twitter. Yeah, but I'm not calling that information. Facebook and Twitter it's okay that they exist. It gives us a lot of voice, actually. For the first time in history, we have a very, very powerful voice as citizens, which we didn't have. How many things happened and changed because of the voicing of people on social media? Pretty surprising. It's just that there's too many, it's like here, there's too many trolls. I wake up in the morning and spend half an hour about people saying I'm a stupid idiot, that I shouldn't be here. And that shouldn't be. That trash should not be. We should be focusing on the good stuff. But you know what? There's some idiot in his basement that thinks he's powerful because he's treating people like trash, when in reality, he doesn't have a life. It's like the few ones that come here and do their thumbs down and the show isn't started yet. I mean, come on, get a life. What a loser you are. You take the time to do that? You are such a loser. It's just amazing, I mean, that's the way it is. And now, because people are invisible when they actually do a comment, it's worse, Dan Robinson, one of the areas of shortwave remains important is Myanmar for external broadcasts going in. And ironically, Myanmar still broadcasts on shortwave along with Thailand. Yeah. Yeah. And it's something. What's happening there is amazingly complex, and it's something that is, and have you noticed how what's happening there? We have no idea. Are we hearing about that here? No, I haven't seen anything like that Very, very little news about it from our local outlet, with once again, which I find is sad. Chuck, nice to have you here from Pennsylvania. Of the Dawn, nice to have you on board. Want to be a barbarian? Okay, count me in. Dan says, for me, shortwave listening led to a career in international broadcasting for 34 years. Christian Marcoux, bonjour. Rewatched the PL380 review you made way back and pressing buttons I never dared, like the AM bandwidth selector, which greatly helps. Thank you. That's yeah. I think Christian. One of the things that I noticed a lot is also that a lot of people buy the radios and need a little help in having somebody guide them through. And I hope I can do some help there and have people guide and do things that with the radios and that they maybe they didn't understand. So cool. Hey Bruce, nice to have you here from South Florida. Randy in Riverside, California. K87, Amazon Canada had the Ethon Elite Executive for 140. Picked it up, really enjoy it. Cool. Have fun with that radio, man. Aerial imaging, shortwave is something that allows you to peek out. There's conflict in Ukraine, poised for invasion. There's a revolution in Myanmar. President of Chad was killed a day after re-election. Yep. You know what made me realize a lot of stuff in the past week? I was listening to the French service of Radio France International, and it was, the African service. And they had that program where they are actually talking of what's happening in Africa. You know what? That's where I learned about Chad. That's where I learned about so many things happening in Africa. Do we get news of Africa? Nope. And not at all. And that is sad. Once again, we should get news from everywhere. We should know what's happening in the world we live in, not just in our fudging countries. I mean, come on, I'm tired of that. I'm tired of looking at the newspaper. It's like, okay, number one news is COVID something. Number two news is US something. And I respect you guys in the US, but as a Canadian, I am very tired of any news coming out of your country. I want to know what's happening in the world, please. Log 2112, nice to have you here from Nassau Bay, Texas. Ralph, nice to have you here from a chilly southern New Jersey. No, we're not streamed on shortwave, Skyler Phoenix. Sometimes we are. Depends on pirates, but right now we're not. Tom DXer, nice to have you here. Says he's got some interesting news about Burma. What else do we have? Thomas, when people were listening to shortwave in the past, they were informed because they wanted to be and wanted to know and understand other cultures. But you know what, Thomas? It's not just that you wanted, is that you had something that actually was giving you that info. And if you were open-minded and interested, you were listening in. Where do you get that today? Where do you get, because we didn't search for it most of the part. When I was listening to shortwave and learn about the countries around the world, it was given to me because I was looking for stations and I was hearing countries. But where do you get that today? Nowhere. Am I going to Google? Yeah, we should if we're really interested, but that was there and I would stumble across it and it was cool. On the internet, you don't stumble or cross something unless you take and make the effort of searching for it, which is different. Bruce, it's okay to live in the past. It was good times for most of us. Well, there was some people that were, good times and some people maybe not. But Kevin Wood, nice to have you here from Nova Scotia. Let's try to get a little faster here. Kimberly, nice to have you here from California, K6YYL. Rick Sander, nice to have you here, Rick from Milwaukee. We have VT Radio, Drake R8 has 3 versions, R8, R8A, and R8B. Oh, that's true. That's the only other radio I can think of. That's true. R8, R8A, R8B. You're right. Shelly, nice to have you here from South Central Pennsylvania. Same here. We have snow today. About 3 inches of it. Oh, man. What else do we have? Jim, KN6BRK, nice to have you here from California. Log 2112 is getting Trenton Military 6754. Cool. That's cool. Let's try to get there a little more. Anybody I haven't said hi, please say hi again if I ever miss you. And keep in mind, I am far behind right now. We have Chastang. Nice to have you on board from Louisville, Kentucky. David Spears, nice to have you here from the UK. Early morning there. Fred, nice to have you here from Asheville, North Carolina. Laura Arbinson, nice to have you here, Laura. KO4DFJ from Georgia. Kevin, I think it's the new version. Ham Radio Outlet had just received a shipment from St. Jean. Wow. Okay. Thank you so much, Kevin. Man, I am amazed. I don't know what to say. It's like, I feel privileged. Thank you so much, Kevin. I should put your name on the radio every time I do a video. Thanks so much. Aerial Imaging says it's not easy to get the Malahit from Russia. I'm on the list. I guess it's good he takes the time, but for your mission, everyone, the Russian Malahit isn't something you can just get. Honestly, you know what? I don't know if I should say this. If you get a good version from China, I'm sorry, it's as good. Because, it has different things. It has amazing sound. I mean, the sound quality of mine, I'm blown away. Frank Ireland, what's the latest firmware on the Texan PL330? How do check to see what version you have? So, if you have a PL330, let me just remember what I have to do to check for the version we have. So what you do is you hold down. Darn, I'm going to tell you guys in 2 seconds. I forgot. So, if you want to check for the firmware version, oh yeah, okay. So, what you do is you hold the oh man, a VF button of the radio when it's off. And yep, it does work. And you'll have the firmware version on the upper right corner. So to give you an idea, maybe I'm gonna see it well. So the VMVF button is to the right of number 3 on your keyboard. When you press it and hold, all the segments of the display will turn on. Leave your finger, and after they turn off, on the upper right, where you usually have the signal level or the clock, you have the version number. From what I understand, it's still 3305, and that's the one you want. That is the one you want. Ari, nice to have you here. Jeff King, good evening from Jacksonville, Florida. Matt says, I don't know if I agree with that comment about long form programming. What do you call most podcasts if not long form programming? Yeah, I don't know. I get the comment about maybe the attention span of people, which is different. Then again, I don't know. Maybe I'm a different person. Then again, I do listen to podcasts that are like an hour long. I don't know. That's a good question. Log 2112, lots of action on Gander 8891. Chuck, I ordered a Russian Malahit today. The wait list is at least 2 months. I'm happy to wait and don't mind spending the money. Price is around $240 at the current exchange rate. When you get it, give us news. What do you think? Dan Robinson, just one final observation. Appreciate your view on this. VOA was actually one of the first international broadcasters to go online, including with newscasts in 1990s. Okay, interesting. I mean, it's fun to have a conversation here, and we have our point of views, and your point of view is a different point of view also because of where you've been and what you've done in life with broadcasting. I'm on the other end of the scale. I was a guy listening to you, where you're the guy being behind the scene to what's happening. So, of course, the point of view is different because we are not at the same edge. And it is always interesting to have your point of view, by the way, Dan. I know I sometimes might sound a little like harsh, but it's not that I'm harsh or anything. It's just I like to kind of hold on to my point of view and see what others come up with, arguments and stuff. But it's always cool to have your point of view, Dan. That is for sure. And if you want to add anything to what you want to talk about your own radios, by the way, please do. It'd be fun. I'll read them on the air if you have some comments you'd like to talk about of some of the radios. Aerial imaging. I can't remember the last time I replaced news radio listenership with the internet. Not sure why it's such a prevalent idea that the internet moves into radio market share. Yeah, I don't think it is. I think it's something else. What else do we have? Dan Robinson. Unfortunately, VOA never achieved the strength of BBC, including 24/7 global TV. Yeah, BBC always. I don't know what puts a broadcaster at the top. There's something about the BBC that made it seem to be like the go-to news, and we got to be careful. I mean, I am a fan of the BBC. I like NewsHour. I like the some of the point of views and things that they do talk about, but at the same time, we got to be careful of being too much into a major broadcaster and not having other sources around it, because that can lead you into a territory where maybe that broadcaster slowly is moving into something you don't want to, and you need different news sources. That's for sure. We can't rely on one broadcaster. We got to rely on several of them, and that's very important. I there are some interesting point of views and things that I like of the Voice of America. Honestly, Voice of America, we talk about propaganda. Propaganda is propaganda, and every broadcaster does some of it. BBC, is English UK propaganda in some way. And of course, there's a point of view of England in there. Being in a Commonwealth country, I understand a lot of that too. But out of whatever broadcaster, like Voice of America, um, there's some interesting things to listen to in there. It's not just propaganda; it's decent reporting of news also at the same time. Like the BBC, Voice of America makes me understand a lot of what's happening around the world with their broadcasts, like towards Africa, for example. For sure, RJD Dakota, nice to have you here, my friend. And I don't have to remember WR now. It's still on the air. 7505, probably at this time, actually. It's just that it's a very different station from the Rocket World back in the 80s. That was a very different one, for sure. MDK2 says BBC is very different from BBC. BBC is everything in British broadcasting, or at least for a while it was. VOA was just our external service, while the big three were radio and later TV for the USA. Oh, man. Bluegrass Dan, if there is content of value, listeners, then sponsors will appear. Yeah. BBC is different for VOA. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I might be innocent. But I always thought the BBC to be, if there was one broadcaster was relatively fair in what it reported, and I think it was for a while, for a long time, even though it's the voice of the British UK. I often found the BBC's point of view to be more fair and open than any other broadcaster. And it's interesting because we got some UK viewers on this channel, and I often hear comments of UK viewers kind of not in agreement that the BBC is such a good broadcaster. And it's interesting because I think just that there should be a discussion there. Is why is your point of view of the BBC kind of telling me that it's not a good broadcaster? Why do you think that? And especially from people from the UK, why do you think the BBC is such a is not worth listening to, for example? Because I get a lot of that feeling from British viewers. As a Canadian, and let's be fair, because we know Canada is diverse. I'm not an English Canadian. I'm a French Canadian. If I had to find a way to maybe be more open, I would listen to Radio France, maybe, because I'm a French Canadian. I'm from Quebec. So my point of view on the BBC's openness and being a fair broadcaster has nothing to do with the background of anything, because I'm not English. I'm not from English descendant. I'm from French descendant. And actually, I'll be very fair. France is fantastic. I'm happy to be here and be different from France, even though I respect everything. My point of view on my French Canadian side is I'm happy to be in North America, and that's it. Okay, well, say it like that. And I appreciate the French side of Canada to be unique and different, and it's on its own compared to being stuck with our past of whoever came here and conquered whatever, because honestly, I don't really care about that. And I never did. We're here and that's it. Why we're here, I don't care. We're here. That's my point of view. I know it's not what a lot of people, think. There's a lot of Canadians that still are like really hooked to the British past and stuff. Like there's a lot of Quebecers that are hooked to their French past, and I'm not one of those. I'm here. They're there. This is life, and this is how it is. I'm happy like this. Okay. And what I mean by that is that the BBC, when I see people from the UK or, it makes me wonder why a lot of people are not that, um, are not that. I don't know. They don't feel like the BBC is a good source of news of anything. I know there were some controversies. I know about a few things that the BBC was kind of iffy, but overall, I think the BBC is a good news source. And I'll be fair, I will trust more the BBC than I trust the Voice of America in a important story of the world. And that's personal, and maybe it shouldn't. I don't know, but I'll be very honest. If I have to listen to a world event from and I mean the UK and the United States are kind of close, but still, I don't know. The BBC for me has some independence where it still gives some interesting outlook that we don't see a lot. Because it's tough, for a national broadcaster to be totally independent. It's a tough one. It's a tough one, especially depending on where the money comes from. Voice of America's money is coming from the government directly. BBC, well, yeah, it does also, but I don't know. I don't know. I always tend to think that BBC might be still more independent in what it does. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. It's once again my personal opinion, and we're all entitled for our opinion here, and that's a fun part of this discussion. Interesting discussion, by the way, tonight. The directions it's going is very, very interesting. Curtis Gump. Will you still be able to DX TV with and actually with digital TV, there are some DXers still. It's a different game, but there are some DXers of digital TV. Absolutely. Locked on 12 says shortwave broadcasting have declined over the years, but that only ramped up internet and interest in utilities, which is a definite plus. You lose some, you win some. Yep. Yeah, Bruce. I think we need to talk more. That's for sure, Bruce. Dirty Diaper. Nice to have you here from South Carolina. Have a great week. You too. Aerial imaging, I think what's happening has more to do with societal interests. I think of the things that compete for people's attention, the internet. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I don't know. As a society, do we have more today around us to distract us than in 1980? 1980, I look at, for example, my mom, which was doing some knitting and some, she would make carpets and stuff with wool, and my dad would make model ships and planes and stuff. Stamp collecting. Computers were there, electronics were there, radio was there. It's possible we have more to distract ourselves today. Is it really because of that we're moving away? I don't know. Dan Robinson, actually, Joe, have been a hardcore DXer since the late 60s. So I have both outlooks. Cool. Cool. It's nice to have that. And like I said, it's nice to have you on board all the time because I always like to see your outlook. I have my outlook. I'm the uh, I'm the guy from 1982 that had a shortwave radio and is just doing live shows. And you know, um, what is killing our hobby? You know, um, lots of stuff probably together. We talk about the internet or not. It's like maybe there's lots of stuff that all happen together at the same time. Plus the fact that money is getting more of a complex thing to get for broadcasters, especially from governments that are all strapped for cash now. And what do you do? What do you do if you have no? You're looking for saving a few millions here, a few million there. It might not seem like a lot, but if you find a lot of places where you save a few millions, you got a couple of billions. How do you explain to and that's something also you got to think of. How do you explain to a population that, and let's face it, even back in the 70s, we were a small chunk of the population doing shortwave listening. The majority of people, even though some knew it existed, did not do that. We're kind of a special breed here. Comes budget cuts. Where do you cut? Oh, Radio Canada International. Oh, yeah, really. $32 million a year? Really? For what? What does it do? Broadcasting to the world. Why? What the hell is that important? Try to explain that to the general population. Oh, we're spending 30 million to just broadcast to the world. They're all like, what? What's that? There's that side also. It's like when you need to find money somewhere, where do you go? Oh, what? Canada's voice to the world. Why do we need that? We need that. Like every country needs that, actually. Mike, WDX50. Nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. I'm going to try to go a little faster because I'm ranting right now and talking and talking and talking. So we're going to try to go down a little faster here. Okay. God. What else we have? Leo David, nice to have you on board. He likes to listen to weird stuff on shortwave, like we all do, actually. John M. Carrion, always enjoy your show. Enjoy your thoughts, Jill. U.S. mainstream media, agenda-driven infotainment. Yep. KB3H, welcome aboard, my friend. Nice to have you on board, John. Aerial imaging. It's a soft form of censorship for sure. It's not that things get blocked, but it's generally understood that people consume the narratives. But in the media, that's I think where we got to be careful is a censorship versus going towards whatever people want to consume. It's a very different thing. Bruce, no, Google does not always mean truth. That's for sure. I mean, it depends on what you Google, how you Google it, and a lot of stuff that comes up. It's up to us to make a difference because Google does not always mean truth. That's for sure. You can, if you search for, just look at If you're a conspiracy theorist of some sort, if you search for what you want to search for, Google's going to give you what? Conspiracy theories. Um, so it gives you what you're searching for. Uh, Truth is a very complex and very unique issue here, because if you say Tiananmen Square is fake, I'm sure that tons of websites from the Chinese government trying to tell you that it never happened. Once again, you can probably Google that, and it probably exists. Um, so Google is not a truth machine, and that's where you got to go. Also, I mean, whatever search engine you're going to use, it's not a truth machine. And yes, search engines by themselves, maybe we got to be careful what search engine we use and what's going to bring us depending on what you search for. There's a lot of things going on in there, but search engines and Google's going to give you what you want. What are you searching for exactly? The truth or not? It's going to give you what you're searching for. It might not be the truth. That's for sure. New Jersey DXer, nice to have you on board, Ray. Pretty cool. Magazine 76, remember seeing that when the Chinese person in China Google's Tiananmen Square, it comes up with vacationing sites around Tiananmen Square. Oh, God. Bruce, what's your opinion on radio scanners? Any comments about Unit SDS 200? Not a lot. I did, of course, make sure that I did read about it and stuff. I know that some people are happy. You know what? Rather than radios themselves, like the Unit SDS 200, the Whistler TRX series, I think it all comes down to what's encrypted or not around you if you want to listen in. That's what you need to search for first. Because if you invest in one of these radios and all of the stuff you like to listen to is encrypted, you just lost money, because those radios won't get it. And I think that's in 2021, a scanner buff needs to know, is stuff that I want to listen to around me encrypted or not? If not, then if they're P25, DRM, whatever digital mode, if they're not encrypted, then get the right radio that can actually decode those digital modes that you want to listen to. And that's going to work. Dan Robinson, decisions on language broadcasts are made based on political issues, and where certain areas are media deprived, which became the new description for international broadcasters. Interesting. Herald Imaging, going somewhere else, spare the channel. Sorry, I get here because originally the point was shortwave allows for consumption of something other than the billionaire's private messaging. Yeah. Curtis Gump, the X-Sync from California TV got interested in WorldStar model and receiver and some Zenith Transoceanic. Cool. Mike WDX50, shortwave was the internet for information before the internet. I learned so much about the world back in the 70s and early 80s, but and lots of different viewpoints. But how do you listen? How do you learn about the world on the internet? You don't. We don't have that info. It's a different thing. Shortwave was there and it did give us that. The internet can give us that if we search for it, but it's not giving us that as it's not, the internet doesn't come at us. The internet is what we ask out of it. Shortwave came at us. Stations were there and they were broadcasting to us, Matt says, I've been doing independent research on Africa, prompted by some stuff I found online. I'm lucky to be following Ruthers on Twitter because they really do push a lot of news and they were covering Chad. Cool, cool. Matt says, so for me, it wasn't a big surprise. I'm not surprised that RFI is covering it. France is still heavily involved. Yeah, absolutely. France is heavily involved in a lot of what's happening. You know, Joe Simon says something happens in Canada. Yeah, it's snowing in Montreal today. Oh God. Interesting interesting discussion we're having tonight on what shortwave is and not, and what media is bringing us. Actually, a very interesting discussion. I'm going to try to catch up, guys, because I'm really far. And usually at this time, I'm already getting closer, but I'm actually talking so much that I'm not even getting close. So let me go a little faster here, okay? So, what else do we have? What else do we have? Let's go down as fast as we can. Sorry, guys, if I'm not reading your comments. It's kind of nice, you know. Really, really interesting discussion, actually. Dan, nice to have you here from Ohio. Mike Logue, nice to have you on board from Kentucky. Thomas Olson, nice to have you here. Mobile Armored Strike Command, nice to have you on board from Boulder Hill. Joseph Richard, nice to have you here. Joseph Richard. What else do we have? Aerial imaging. I don't know if I'm willing to spin the wheel on the Chinese ones. I'll be honest, your experience with your unit giving me confidence. No, it's not the full software. But you know what? Even though it's kind of crappy, I'm still impressed and I'm still loving it. It's just funny. You know, sometimes you don't need a lot to have fun. Nice to have you here, Joseph Richard. Larry Cordy from New York. Nice to have you here. Blind Picker Rob. Nice to have you here from Connecticut, W0RAB. VT Radio, Hollycrafters S38 also has several versions, S38A through S38E. Well, yeah, okay. So you're gonna pick out all the radios, but at least in the portable side of it, in the modern times, there was not a lot of them. I think the St. Jean is pretty much the only one. By the way, guys, thank you for putting a smile on my face, because tonight I was like feeling like, I'll say the word shit. And when I came on, I was like not really wanting to be. But you know what? I'm enjoying totally the conversation and totally the presence of all of you guys. Thank you so much. It feels good. Joey D, nice to have you on board. What are your thoughts on the Ethon Elite 750? Look, I don't have one. What I've seen as comments is that it's not that it's bad. It's actually a very sexy looking radio, but it's not for the price necessarily the best either. And the comment I've seen the most is it overloads easily. But for the rest, it looks cool. And if you're getting one or got one, I think the best thing to say is just have fun. I'm not Chuck. I live about 100 miles from Nashville and heard WWCR over the air for the first time last week. Of course, it sounded better over the internet, but it was more fun to listen on radio. Yeah, because we're radio guys, and that's a different thing. RFA Radio Free America says, great show, by the way. Cool. He's got a collection of the Ethon 750, Sanjay ATS 405, and a QFX analog. Cool. Joey D, has anyone else bought one? I'm thinking of buying one. What? Kimberly, sure. I would like to mention my rig for 1 second. Love the Kenwood TS480HX. But Kenwood recently discontinued it. I bought this for the HX version for 200 watt out in 2012. Cool. Yeah, it's sad when they do. It's sad when they discontinue radios. Yes, the Texan PL 660 is a great radio, Joseph. If you buy that, you're going to have a great radio. Keegan remembers listening to WRNO one night in summer 2009, but you should have listened to WRNO, the rock of the world. That was cool back in the 80s. I can tell you that. Mike, all shortwave broadcasts are propaganda. Yes, so are all local broadcasts. There's nothing different. Listen to CBS, listen to ABC, to PBS, to whatever outlet. They all have their viewpoint. Here in Quebec, we have TVA, which is, oh God. And we got the CBC French, and we've got in English, of course. We got, the global. It's all somewhat propaganda on each side. It's part of it. It's part of it. And shortwave isn't worse. It's a reflection of what you want to talk about. That's all. Dr. Sisab, bonsoir. Nice to have you here. Sheldon Harvey, nice to have you on board from a snowy Greenfield Park. Yeah, I was talking to everybody that it's still snowing, actually. We had about 3 inches when I took the snow out the balcony, actually. So let's go. Okay, I'm 20 minutes. I'm getting closer, guys. 20 minutes. 20 minutes. What else do we have? VT Radio, Joe, WVMT AM 620 is dropping Rush Limbaugh on Monday, picking up Fox Across America with Jimmy Fowler. Oh, man. That's going to be interesting. It's one of those stations that makes it quite easily into Montreal. WVMT 620 is a daytime easy listen here from Vermont. Interesting. What else do we have? Yeah, it's 20 Celsius. Miki Delmage, nice to have you here. 20 Celsius in Sherwood Park. Yeah, it's snowing here. But then again, you had such a cold spell at some point that, we can exchange, as Canadian, we can exchange our, your weather's crappy today. Ours is super cool and nice and sunny and warm. It's the way it is in Canada, Yep, Voice of America is the United States Information Agency, absolutely. It's meant to propagate U.S. viewpoints. But I do like one thing. I like the fact that they'll come on and say, so the next broadcast is going to reflect the views of the United States government. It's like, well, you're at least saying it, Herald Imaging problem with all media is that it has to operate under either capitalistic or state-run model. Both are corruptible, either from authoritarian state or corporatish. Yeah, corporatist respect. Yeah, money talks, as we say. You, Kelvin Morgan, nice to have you here. In the UK, we are forced to pay the TV and radio license fee. You are not allowed to skip it. If you do, you will be fined thousands. So it's a forced stealth facts that we still have to endure. Yeah. Yeah, stamp collecting was cool. Absolutely. The export says that's a strange tax. Well, I don't remember because I never lived through it, but here in Canada, in the early days of radio, you had to pay a license to actually own a radio, which is weird when you think about it. It's like if we had to pay a license to purchase a TV today. It's like, what? Gotta pay a license for a TV? Oh, man. Yes, Joseph, do hit the buy button and enjoy it. It's a great radio. And you're going to have a lot of fun with it, Joseph. By the way, Dr. Sisop says, enjoy Shortwave more as no more Brother Stare. Um, a lot of broadcasters are actually, I think, you know what? There's going to be a change. WWCR is dropping some frequencies and times because Brother Stare isn't there anymore. So less money coming in, less transmitters on the air. WRMI is also doing it now. So what's happening is, you know what? The next few weeks are going to be kind of interesting on the shortwave bands. Okay. Yeah, I'm still hearing for a while, but I've noticed that there's a lot of broadcasters that are dropping frequencies and times. So I think that as time goes by, um, it's going to be different. What's going to happen is going to be very, very different, for sure. So try to go down here. Let's go down here. Sorry if I'm not if I missed you. Say hi again. I'm trying to catch up with the chat room here. Okay. Okay. Anybody haven't said hi? Aerial Imaging says the problem with those expensive digital scanners is that while they feature the desired digital mode decoding, they're low grade actual radios. You know, I'll just say one thing about the SDS series of Uniden. Being myself in search of should I invest in a scanner radio? The first thing that comes up to mind for me is maybe not. By the way, guys, if you have multi PSK, the latest version has DMR, D star decoding, and P25. That means, you know what? If you have you have an SDR, you don't need a scanner radio. But not just that. What I've noticed on and what I've read on a lot of the very expensive receivers. I mean, they were expensive back. I mean, a good scanner in the early 90s was, you know, a lot of money. I remember paying 500 Canadian dollars for a Pro 43. It's a lot of money back in 1990, 91, somewhere there. I have noticed and I have read about performance. And here's the thing, we're focusing on features a lot. You know, it's like on shortwave radios. We focus a lot on features. Well, that radio has this, that, and that. But we forget to look at the actual performance number. You know, I rant a lot about the ICOM SCR30, how its front end is crap. What I read a lot about the Uniden SDS series is that the front end is crap. And if you live in a city like I do, where FM broadcast and UHF, VHF broadcast strong signals are there, you end up with a radio that is very crappy in performance. So apart from the features of the digital side, because you know they radio manufacturers are kind of, you know, very They're giving us numbers that we kind of look at, and honestly, how many of us do understand the actual numbers you see on the screens? Like, oh, 0.2 microvolts, this and that. It's like, what? So, you know, even a radio fan will look at that number and say, what? And compared to what? And compared to another radio, what is it? Because that's how we compare a radio. It's like zero point 0.2 microphones, sensitivity, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay, but if I take him on Pro 43, and what's the difference? What are the differences between these two? You can't really make sense of any numbers. What I've seen personally, yeah, they decode tons of digital modes, but the basics of the receiver are very, very crappy. Yeah, the Whistler also. I've seen people saying if you live in a high, um, where there's a lot of FM and very powerful stations around, it just goes deaf. It just can't cope. So that's where I don't know what to say, and I don't really bring myself forward because I don't own any of them. But I know one thing is I don't really feel like I want to buy any of them either. When I look at what the performance they have versus, and the other thing is I'm not there. I'm a communications guy. I like to listen to satellites passing over, which none of them do. And the more I look into what broadcasts or what police and whatever comes in, encrypted or not, you're like, yeah, I'm not sure I want to, what here in Montreal, police is encrypted. I don't feel like I want to have any of these radios. Really, honestly. It's a tough one, but I feel like, yeah, Hey, Jason Francis from Ottawa. Nice to have you here. And what do we have? Cool, Keegan. 25K views on your YouTube channel. Don't, continue posting. Continue posting. What else do we have? Grounding Ethan satellite display has failure. I've seen a few posts of people mentioning that the Ethan satellite had some failure with the display. So I don't know. Maybe for some models it could be a problem. Hey, VT Radio. Take care. Stay safe. Stay safe. Bruce, pleasure and honor to be here with you, Joe. I've learned a lot since dropping out of radio for 30 years. Happy to have you here, my friend. And yeah, Keegan, you missed out on that. They would have rock music and they would ID WRNO, the rock of the world. That was so cool. That was so cool back in the 80s. Oh man. Curtis Gum says, I really enjoy the AM logbook that the National Radio Club puts out. Miss the old market radio book back in the days, and was a great book. The Inside Radio put out. There's a lot of stuff that's interesting. Mike, WDX50, I think WRNO was rock when I listened to them. I don't know when. I'm trying to figure out when WRNO Rock of the World left. Shortwave. Kimberly says she's having a hot chocolate. I hope you can somehow give us a peek out your window at the snow. Here goes. So let's do it. Half. It's not snowing a lot, but I don't know if you're going to see a lot. I'm going to try to do my best, okay? So we got snow today.